such powerful information on our school district that you would be amazed. And in some of our early demonstrations with them, he can actually calculate walking distances for us because the software is loaded with all of our local maps, all of our local data, all of the information that the city planning department has, that the city streets department has. And so when he, when we say to him, there were times we were running scenarios with him where we wanted to see what it would look like if everyone within a mile's walking distance was assigned to a school. He was actually able to show us as the computer was drawing those 1 mile walking lines for us. So really it is a very powerful software that we're using, and we have given them incredible amounts of data about our local community, including not only current enrollment, past enrollment, but enrollment of private school children, homeschool children. He has birth rates. He has census tract data. It's a really very rich data set, so I want everyone to know that we are, that the reason that we're working with this consultant is so that we have the benefit of all of that advanced information so that the committee has the very best data to inform their decision making. Yes, sir.
I'd like to piggyback off that and just reassure the members of the community that the Let's Talk feature that Fayette County is using is indeed into consideration and looked at by us. For example, the second bullet down refers to Bryan Station Middle School. I am the principal of Bryan Station Middle School, and the statement made was that we're not helping the free and reduced lunch numbers because Bryan Station Middle School is currently at 64% and would be going to 76%. The truth is, Bryan Station Middle School is probably closer to 80-something% at the time that the Spanish immersion numbers averaged in, bringing down to 64. So by having my neighborhood population at 76, when the Spanish immersion program is incorporated, it should bump me down in the mid-50s. I can't mathematically prove that until I know more information. The other thing I wanted to bring up is when you go over to page 4, I want to appreciate the comment where it says, hello. Let's start by saying I do not envy those responsible for redistricting, and I do respect that there is no way to make anyone happy. So I appreciate that comment. It was followed up by their involvement in LTMS could not be possible if they went to a school that was further away. So we do want to consider proximity, and thank you for your comment. Keep them coming.
Okay, Scott, are you there with us?
I am here.
Okay, Alan.
All right, thank
you. Yours, sir.
Just a couple of very quick comments. First is a housekeeping one for the audience. The school board has actually moved their planning session to tonight so that they could get an extra one in, given all the things that are going on in the system now before the Christmas holiday. So we appreciate that. But what it does mean is that it coincides and overlaps with. So we've got a couple of folks, Mary and Lisa, I suppose. I don't know about Vince or Bob, but who will be kind of bailing on us. Certainly, I saw Melissa. Where'd she go? Well, anyway, they're not protesting or anything when they all get up and back and leave us. They do have other responsibilities tonight. I would like to reiterate that so many, we do take to heart these let's talk comments. We read them all. I go through them to see how many people are angry with me, and I call them personally. Forgive me. No, but
I believe all of Kathy.
yeah. What we do take these things seriously, but there is a consistent theme through many of the 50-plus comments that we got last time and 50 more this time. And the theme is, in many cases, I see where my school, something has been redistricted, and I want to tell you why that's wrong. For those of you who have been with us from the beginning and observing this entire process, I want to remind everyone, we haven't decided a dadgum thing yet, not even close to it. but we're trying to get to points where we take in these comments and considerations, care about your neighborhood, and when we do ultimately make some decisions, keep in mind that we are simply charged by to make recommendations back to them based on the criteria that they gave us. And we intend to do that. I will tell you further that we're probably going to do even more than that. During this process, we've discovered that there are probably some things that we might want to recommend that will help this process along that we weren't even asked to do. And we're having conversations amongst ourselves about, perhaps where that new middle school ought to go based on best evidence. Where we might want to put special programs or dealing with magnet schools, none of which has been in our charge, but we do believe that if we make some recommendations, it might ease the whole process for everyone. So that's where we're going. That's how we're moving forward. I expect that we'll be here again till about 6:30 this evening. We do have one more session that we'll have before the Christmas holiday. That's 2 weeks from tonight. I think we're here at 4:30 again, and then we'll move forward. Our plan tonight is to, again, begin to revisit some of the conversations and scenarios that we came up with. We've asked Scott, as many of you know, to take a look at some of these scenarios and have them for us. He has sent some of those things to us, and we found a lot of things that didn't make sense to us, that we, maybe which last week we thought was really smart. So we're looking at those back today and look at some of the middle school conversations and scenarios that we had. And we hope by the end of tonight to at least think about the elementary schools. We don't this week, we will in 2 weeks. And that's the process that we're using. And before I get too many more phone calls, text, voicemail, and let's talk, we do understand that there are many other components of this conversation, including grandfathering and travel and transportation and all sorts of different things, where, grandfathering siblings. All of those things we know about. I'm getting a lot of calls saying, gosh, you guys have forgotten all this other really important stuff. We got it. We're just not there yet. And so we are considering all of those things, but in time. That's why this process is going to take as long as it takes. I don't know when we're going to be done, but we hope that by mid-spring that we'll have our recommendations to the board. And again, finally, I would say, anybody has any comments, concerns, questions, please feel free to contact me directly. I appreciate it if you wouldn't call your school board members, because they don't have a damn thing to do with it until we get to them. And then you can call them all you want. That's what they get paid for, the big money. So, the big money,
The big goose egg.
Yeah, the big zero. Right. About the same as we're making, I think.
Yeah.
So that's it. I just wanted to make sure that we all were on the same page as we proceed forward. I'd like the committee to begin to look at our scenarios that Scott sent to us. And Scott, what I think the consensus of our group is that the scenarios that we're looking at, for example, at LTMS, probably aren't going to work. We are over capacity at LTMS with just neighborhood kids and no magnet school. There's no room in LTMS for magnet program anymore with these scenarios. So we've got to start looking at that and tweaking them out from there. And there's some, and as we adjust those, like any water balloon, you tilt it one way and it goes the other. So that's where we are. Anybody want to start with Scott? Questions? Sure. Really.
So if we have a school, there's no that's at 170% capacity. I'm just throwing this number out. If we reduce that to 140, even though it's still over capacity, is that better? Or right now we're all at 100%. So we have to have one move from 130 to 115 capacity. I'm saying, you understand my question.
No, I'm not sure I understand your question.
So
You're saying,
reducing it, so one school is at capacity, I think EJ has. We have 1,000. Yeah, so if we reduce that to 120, is that better? Is that helping the problem, or does it have to be at 1?
what scenario you're looking at? 'Cause I don't see anybody.
Middle school B, where he came up with his plan, at everything's like that, 100% capacity. This is the one he got.
Okay, so with everyone at 100% capacity, I think the question doesn't.
But we're not going to leave it
So if we put a school at 140%, 170%, the issue is, number one, you get staffed based on the number of kids you have in the building. Number two, what physical space are the kids going to go into? Because once you're at a certain square footage and capacity, then the board starts bringing in portable classrooms to actually house the kids. You can get creative, and you can have teachers plan in alternate sites outside of their classroom, and you can have folks float into that classroom to house classes. So there's a level of creativity that you can have when you're above capacity. That's something we did at Henry Clay. But the ideal scenario is to be at 100%.
Okay.
Absolutely, without a doubt. Then when your teachers get together to have the collegial planning, they have their physical space to work in. Did I answer the question?
Yes.
Well, if we're going to have to take some schools down, lower the capacity, then it's going to make some of them over the 100%, because we talked about a couple of schools that are have too many students. Say LTMS. If we change that around,
Yeah, that's okay, because LTMS right now is 100%, we want it down closer to 70%. Is that what you're saying?
Well, if you look at the
and the only way to do that is to increase the numbers at a different school.
Now remember,
right, and
there's something I want you all to remember when we're talking about these capacities, that we actually did decrease the capacity on the schools with the magnet programs. So that's why there might be at 100%, and that's just local kids. But the students in each of these areas include those magnet school students. So this is our whole student population without having the whole capacity. We still have probably almost 1,000 seats of capacity for those switching.
If you look at Bryan Station Middle School, the school that I'm the principal of, my building is made for 800. I have 350 anticipated immersion kids, so my estimated capacity is 450. He's already taken into consideration my Spanish immersion program that is board approved.
And those Spanish immersion kids will come from the other attendance areas into his school, lowering their number of home students.
That's right.
Right. And Scott, is there a way for you to project, based on the data we've already given you, where those kids may be coming from? Because effectively, if we look at the scenario that's up on the board right now, you can't really see it, but it says there's seats for 8,500 and there's 8,600 kids. Right. So right now there is no way to make a scenario that's not every school over 100% because the projections we made with the capacity. So is there a way for you to tell us where it's okay to go up to 110%, because for the past 5 years, 15% of those neighborhood kids have been going to a different school?
Yes, yeah, there is a way, and actually we can only do this type of redistricting on 1 year's data. So we would use, of course, the 2014-15 data, where we can plug in our anticipated attendance areas, and it will then give us an estimate of the number of enrolled in schools. What it will do is it will look at each individual student that has a school code on it, match it up with the school code of the area it's in, and decide whether or not that student is going to go to that school code, that school, or if it's actually going to another school. So for example, I'm gonna just have this, say we have a student that lives here that is currently going to Crawford, and we change this to Winburn. Well, in our redistricting by attendance area, this student that's right here that's going to Crawford, we would stay going to Crawford. The students here that were going to Bryan Station would go to Bryan Station. And the students, so no matter where we move this, pretty much the students will stay to their own school. But the ones that are moved, I'm sorry, the Bryan Station students will go to Winburn because they're going to their home school. We assume they're going to go to their new home school. So we have a way of doing that estimates a roll and it gets all those kids moving around. And, you know, that's also part of the attendance matrix. I'm trying to find it. Sure you have it. Yeah. That's part of the attendance matrix. So we can look at this way too. We've got, this is high school, we'll look at the 6-8. If we use these same numbers, and assuming, I think the one that was giving you heartburn was traditional, LTMS. Well, there's only 214 students out of, there's 214 students out of 273, so it's almost about 80% are actually going there. The rest of their students are transferring in. There's 418 students transferring in from other areas. So we can look at that data as we're doing this and say, oh well, we're only getting a certain portion of number of students. Like Leestown, you're only getting about 65% of the students that actually live in that attendance area. So we can look at that kind of thing too, if that makes sense.
So in your scenario B, is LTMS 104% in the current magnet percentage? It does. That's what it's.
In all these scenarios, this is the number of students living in each attendance area. We start there. You want to have that facilities and that base there because those programs can move. There's different reasons why students transfer around. So we start with that number of students in the area, then we refine using some other methods.
Do we know what the building capacity is for LTMS?
That would
listed on the paper.
That's 733.
So that's the building capacity.
So Bryan
Yes,
Station
we
Middle School was
have
the only
not-
one whose capacity was
No,
growing?
Winburn was all.
Okay, but not LTMS.
We reduced James Creek Middle, Winburn Middle, and Bryan Station Middle. LTMS was not reduced.
Well, that's right. We didn't reduce LTMS because it was a flex. However, that's what the school board has done. It'd be interesting for me to ask our colleagues Daryl Love and Melissa Bacon, who are here, if there is a set philosophy or goal for what that magnet school at LTMS can accommodate. Currently, out of 730 kids, 515 of them are magnet kids, 215 are resident kids, neighborhood kids. It occurs to me, it seems to me, that that's a balance that we don't have to have, but without direction from the school board as to what you'd like to see there, it's kind of hard for us to make that happen. But here's what we know. With middle school scenario B, where we're pretty close to 100% at every school, the unfortunate part of that problem is it's 100% neighborhood kids at LTMS and 0 magnet. So we've eliminated that magnet program by this scenario.
I thought they were in. They're not?
No, see, we didn't adjust that one like we did at Bryan Station Middle. because we don't know what that number is.
Sure. And I don't know what the philosophy in terms of the number of students. And I don't know if you guys know that as well. If they determine there's a certain set amount that's actually dedicated for the magnet program and the of how that's determined.
But we have history there, and we know what we don't want to do there, based on the history that we've had, where it was 100% magnet school. That didn't work. Right. Pretty clear we don't want it to be 100% neighborhood school. We don't have any direction beyond that.
I think Mary's point is time in.
I'm thinking it's probably you try to accommodate I don't think you're different than a
Right.
But it is a recognized magnet.
Yes, it is.
And right now it has a very small neighborhood zone. So there's only 278 kids who live in that zone, and 218 of them go to school.
It's almost like, Lester, if you look at your particular school and you say, I know I have X amount of kids for the magnet program. But if your lines are drawn and you say, these are the kids that are actually assigned to my particular school, if they have so many slots, then how many slots do they leave for people who are part of your magnet program? Either you have a set number and you say, set.
Well, I do actually, because I can anticipate how many kids are in Spanish immersion after 5th grade.
So that determines how many additional slots that you may have for. But neighborhood kids are getting preference first, right?
Yes. Yes. And as a matter of fact, I haven't had to do this, but I don't have a waiting list for Spanish. And I've got waiting list now for all anticipated students.
But I think your point, Alan, is something that we just got to keep on the list there as well, because I don't think that's been an issue that has come up.
Well, what I'm wondering, Daryl, is, again, it's beyond our scope of work, but perhaps the committee would recommend a number there. And
Alan?
Oh, that was Scott. What happened? What did he say?
I'm sorry, Scott,
This is Ron, and I'm just, if I'm kind of garbled on hearing all the conversation, but, you know, we've already adjusted Bryan Station and Tates Creek and Winburn based on the programs. We know that LTMS has, 400 and change that are in the magnet program now? Is that what I saw flash on the screen?
Yeah, here 500.
Could we just make an assumption, without making policy for the school board, of course, just make an assumption as a starting point that there will be that many spots reserved for magnet program and adjust LTMS's capacity, and then, you know, then we'll still have all these schools over capacity. But if I understood Scott right, then with that as a starting point and reserving space in these 4 schools for these programs, could we then project based on current, you know, numbers, who's going to move from what school into these programs? And then I think that's going to change those percent over capacities a great deal when we actually take into account the migration, the out-migration from those schools into these programs. Does that make sense?
So your thought process is that if you go ahead right now and just kind of load in the scenario where we are today, that will kind of free up at least 500 or so plus students out of the existing home assigned schools, correct?
That's kind of what I was thinking. And then, you know, if then we'll see what the numbers look like when we see where the kids are actually planning to go outside of their home area. And, you know, then that gives the board some information basically about LTMS and how many students they really want to have in there in that magnet program. It may still be under capacity with the neighborhood kids.
Okay. And that gives us an opportunity to kind of go back on floor with school leadership around that.
Let me ask Bob about what the real numbers are.
Yeah, a little bit more about the numbers at LTMS. Traditionally, it's been 30 to 40% local and 60 to 70% magnet. But that percentage magnet has been going down. There's been a few less kids in the last few years. They used to be consistently go up to capacity and then stop magnet kids, go up to about 730, 750. But lately they're getting closer to low 600. And so it's, less than 400 magnet students, or about 400.
Is it fair to say, Bob, that number of those kids who are in the magnet program have, over the last number of years, diminished an overall county contribution, and now it's more focused on kids from the Leestown and Crawford districts?
Yes. Yes, it used to be more broadly from a variety of middle schools. Lately, it's been from the Leestown area, Crawford area, and then the rest of them are kind of spread all over, but the majority, especially from Leestown.
Well, if that's the case, and that makes sense to me, we could be better served, I would think, by increasing the neighborhood percentage at LTMS, reducing the magnet percentage, perhaps from 30-70 to 50-50, and that might keep more of our students in the Leestown and Crawford areas where we need more kids.
Well,
Is that making sense to you?
it makes sense, but she made the comment earlier that there was 278 kids in that area, and 217 go there. Is that by choice? Are those other 60 or so kids going to other programs, different magnet programs?
Yes.
So really, there's no need to increase because there's only 278 and 217 are already there.
Well, it depends on how we draw the line.
Just redraw the line.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
that's the whole thing. Based on today's lines, that's correct. But as we're trying to adjust all these other schools, and it has direct impact on Hayes and direct impact on Crawford and Leestown, as we move our boundaries around, that neighborhood expands, or could, if we so chose. So I don't think we're limited to those 278 kids currently. Am I saying that correctly, Lisa? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, you are. Yeah, I think what we need to do is decide on a number we can live with for LTMS and go from there and leave that space open like we did for the other schools.
So you think like 50-50?
You know what? When I did my cursory look at all the numbers and potential boundaries, I thought we had some real impact on these other middle schools if we went 30 to 50%, expanding the neighborhood, bringing those kids to their neighborhood school, to probably not quite double, but a 60% increase neighborhood to get it to 50-50. It made it'd make a difference. I mean, if we didn't have Scott run that, I'd get it in my head, but.
How many kids, I mean, those kids are choosing that to attend that magnet. I mean, they're choosing for a reason. There's some offering there that is appealing to them.
You're talking about the intrinsic value of that magnet. I can't answer that. Any of you educators, teachers, be able to?
I mean, I don't think there's an answer to it, but I think what we need to consider is, how much do we want to limit it? At what point do you cripple the program as well?
Right. Well, I think what we're finding, though, is that we're moving some kids from the Leestown and Crawford districts as a default, basically, into magnet program. And I don't think that's as healthy a situation as it ought to be. And it messes us up with our numbers and cause domino effect. And so now we're reaching out to other middle schools to help balance it out. If we at least increase that, it would reduce, in my mind, and I hope in actuality, the number of movement kids we have to get the balance we're seeking.
While you guys are discussing this, I'm going to do something but don't pay attention until I get some results.
I was going to say, I think, too, when you think about LTMS, because you had a lot of leadership changes within the school, that may have had some factor on the decrease in individuals as a part of their program. So I think that any program, if you create a more robust program, that's really successful, and people really start to, gain more confidence and buy more into, people are going to apply and want to basically go there as well. So I guess in thinking about it, do you still cap yourself out at a certain level, or do you give yourself some opportunity to be able to grow?
I get exactly what you're saying, Daryl. I'm trying to look at it from 30,000 feet and not think about the programs and not think about where they are, but minimize as best we can movement as we draw these boundaries. But I get you're exactly right, and that's the way it was designed originally. But it's not functioning that way at the moment. I think. Can't say anything definitively because I'm just not that smart.
So these red dots here are Lexington students, 6-8 students. And the shaded areas are current boundaries. So it looks like Leestown, which I believe had the majority, 183 students, they're the biggest amount, are 183 students are coming from there. So it looks like this area here is the one that's really producing those students. What I was hoping was going to happen is there was an adjacent area, say this area, that we had a lot of students going to Lexington. And that would be an easy thing to do. They're going to there for magnet school, and then we can make it their home school, so it's a nice overlap. Unfortunately, that's not the case. I can also look at, so what's the program at Lexington? Is it?
At LTMS?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's a traditional magnet program. It's a concept that started back in the early 90s. One of the things that made it unique at the time was that it had a very strict dress code. They offered Latin. They had an extended school day. And some of those things have morphed over the years, but they still do still have an extended school day. They do offer world languages. I don't know if they're still offering Latin. Bob, do you know that or not?
I'm sorry.
Do you know if they still offer Latin at LTMS? I think that they've done away with that. But they do offer, the idea was a more traditional approach to education. And they have entrance criteria. Students have to have good behavior, grades above a C,
okay,
in order to apply to enter. Once they meet that criteria, then they're accepted as long as there's room in the building.
Okay. Okay. So what I've done here now is, because I was hoping there was different programs there so we could see where they were coming from too. What I've done here is these are all the students that are living outside of that attendance area. And we can see, if we want to, we can break down some of their attributes of these students. The free reduced lunch, their enrollment code, which, Bob, what does that stand for?
The enrollment code?
Yeah.
That tells why they're in the building.
Okay. So this is where, if they're in a program or something of that sort.
Yeah, if it's a code 100, then that means they live in the area. And the other code, in this case, probably 4-something or
410?
410, that's probably the LTMS magnet code.
Okay. Okay, well that makes sense then. So we could get this kind of data also, that what's happening here. Wow, I lost my train of thought. I'm sorry. But that being all said, and the data being all said, I do want to remind you that you guys are the ones on the ground, and I have great amount of data here, but I really do need your input. So that's really important. All right, I'm sorry, I totally lost my train of thought where I was going with this. Just want to let you know that we can look into this a little bit deeper when we get to these questions. That is all.
Back to the idea of reserving capacity, their enrollment has gone down to 600. And it's about 400 magnet, 200 local. And it's been on a downward trend in terms of the number of magnets. So, you know, a target of 50-50, 350 students reserved for magnet would certainly be.
And it would help us get our capacity back because we'd be expanding our neighborhood, right?
Yeah.
What we set a target of that for numbers sake, so we can move forward? Say, is it 400 now, as you said?
Yeah.
Why don't we set it for numbers sake today, conversation for see what it looks like, and back out to 400.
I'm fine with that.
Yeah, let's look at that.
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
Okay.
Make it happen?
That can happen. You just have to remember that that's what we're doing.
All right. We'll remember. You do it.
All right. Thank you. My brain is not working right now.
What the committee wants.
You're my man.
Okay, so we want to concentrate here, and right now I think we had 700 students in Lexington. Let me get back to the student counts. Okay, so Lexington, we have 759 living in that area. We've reserved seats at Bryan Station, Tates Creek, and Winburn. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so, and you say you want more students in Crawford's area?
No.
No?
No, not based on where we are, not from B.
Okay.
And Scott, one reason for that is that, you know, and I don't know if you remember the numbers, Bob Davies, that we left the growth area in Crawford, so we need to leave space for the growth in Crawford.
Oh, that's true, yes.
In fact, I was going to, I've got another change I'd like to request later on. Let's get through with LTMS, but Crawford's numbers are probably too high.
Sure, we're building on the middle school. We're going to have, somebody's going to have to get a little bit high. There's around that guy.
Crawford has been so low for so long that I am sure that they would love to be a little higher.
Well, you take into consideration that, off the top of my head from the previous chart, I think 15% of Crawford's kids are going to LTMS. At 104, you're not too high. If 15% of their kids continue to go to LTMS.
And we also lose what percentage to Bryan Station?
To LTMS? So these are the students that are going to LTMS, and that's the area they live in. So there's 8 from Beaumont, 34 from Bryan Station, down the list.
Slide it over so we can see Crawford. 75 for Crawford. 76.
Crawford has got not really attracting many students. Out of their 700 students there, about 589. I'm sorry. Out of 589, 200 are going somewhere else. There's 40 going to Bryan Station, 14 going to Hayes, and that's the 76 going to Lexington. 18 going to Winburn. So they're getting 400 out of 600 students. 66%, something like that.
Now, those 40 that are coming to me, that's not going to continue because I'm not going to have room, but LTMS is. So if we staff, if we district of 100, it should balance out with the kids that are going to LTMS.
Yes. Yeah. Theoretically.
Yeah, theoretically. Your 200 students. Go ahead.
Is that allowing for the growth, though?
There's no way to do for that, really.
Without the new middle school, we can't. We're at capacity. We're at capacity essentially countywide for middle schools. So without the new school, we can't plan for any more growth other than to acknowledge that those numbers are going to inflate to 110, 120% until the new middle school is built.
Now,
and what I'm hopeful that we'll be able to do is get the data from our smart people like Bob and Jim and Mike and Rick Queen and tell us where that growth might be, and we should be able to extrapolate where the new middle school could help us the most.
yes, we could.
Again, theoretically.
We also, from a facilities standpoint, we can look at some of those school sites that will have room for the meantime to put portables or relocatables and have that extra capacity. It might make sense from a capacity standpoint to fill up Crawford, but they don't have the actual living space on their campus. So we have to think about that too. And maybe
a lot of on Crawford.
that was an example.
Right. Oh, no. But what I'm saying is if you're doing that until a new middle school is built. Oh, okay. I guess like if there's a Scott already set up a placeholder on the Scott.
Yes.
Suggestion?
Yeah.
Okay. There is one area, and since we're talking about the Crawford area, there is an area of 110 kids that we had left in Hayes last week, the last meeting I should say, and you have moved them out. Can we move them back to Hayes? Because the Hayes number is down to 833, and they have 1,076 at this point in time. And we did not have as much growth in Hayes as we do in Crawford. So to me, it makes more sense to leave more room in Crawford for the growth than in Hayes.
Okay. So the area was it?
100 kids.
Well, right now, they're in scenario B, they're essentially equal in being over capacity. They're both 3 or 4.
Yeah, but the growth is more in Crawford. So
that's right.
So we can move that 110 kids back to Hayes from Crawford. It would leave more room for Crawford to grow because that's where the growth is going to be. Does that make sense?
Where do those 110 kids come from?
It's right here. It's Andover Forest and Autumn Ridge. It's right there, and they're already in Hayes now. So the group that we're moving, that we don't really need to move, in my opinion. And Hayes will still, they're at 1,076 now. It would leave them at 943, so it's lower in their number. So there's more, they've got the teachers, they've got the facilities, and he doesn't consider, the principal there does not consider 800's capacity. So that just makes more sense to me to leave the room in the area that's going to grow more so than the one that's not going to grow as much.
If we're looking at capacities and when we're trying to redraw these lines and knowing we're going to need another middle school, I don't know where that's going to be or where the growth patterns are to where that should be placed. It seems to me that if we're going to recommend an area for a new middle school, the adjoining middle schools are the ones we should be with these new lines. They should have that, or those are the ones that should be more over capacity because they're going to get relieved when the new school is built. The ones farther away, we should try to get under capacity now or close to it as we can.
But we don't know where the new middle school is going to go yet.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Are there board members in the audience or people there that know these growth patterns that can give us a rough idea where they think maybe this is probably going to happen?
Okay, but I'm just saying that's kids that's removing that we don't really need to move. Because they're currently going to Hayes.
Okay. We can move that. I don't know what numbers, but we can move that if that's what the committee wants to do.
You know what those numbers are for that area?
But if we can relieve...
Give me study area numbers that I can tell you.
Why would we put one school up above capacity to make relief for a school that's going to be relieved anyway?
101, 101, 103, 106. 603 and 604. Is that the area?
It's a
101, 102, 603, and 604.
So have we,
I don't know.
the committee decided to move those areas?
No.
We're just looking at it.
I can tell you how many
There's
students are in there.
There's no reason. There's no really good reason to put one school above capacity when you can have two that are below capacity to try to make room for one school to grow or have more relief because there's going to be some kind of expansion there when we don't know where the new middle school is going to be. So why would you put a school above capacity and you don't know if they're going to be able to come back down or not? Because that doesn't leave room for it to grow in the future. We're looking at this plan over a 5 to 10 year plan. You don't want to put a school in a situation where now it has no room to grow if we're going to be building new houses out that way. It puts us back in the same situation.
That's what we're looking at. We left that growth in the Crawford area and in the new high school area. So that if we left the high school at a lower capacity, knowing that's where the growth is going to be. So it makes more sense to leave the room for the growth where the growth is going to be. Am I correct?
Not if we have a new middle school.
That's not for 7 years down the road.
Yeah,
but down the road.
But we're putting another school at over capacity for the next 5 or 7 years down the road when you can have two that are under capacity right now.
It's less kids than what's in there right
Or
now.
right at capacity.
There's less kids that's in there right now. Now, who can...
Did we come up with a resolution for the LTMS population? And we finished that conversation before we move on? Because that will affect the entire Penn-Block.
I think we decided on 50-50 at LTMS.
We did tell Scott that number's about 400. What you said,
And
Tom.
we have the authority to make that call, or does that have to come from?
Well, all of these are going to be recommendations that if the school board doesn't agree with it, but I think what I'm hearing is that they're flexible on this conversation, and at least in terms of doing the math and trying to make all of this fit together, we've essentially got to make some sort of a call about that.
Okay, so if we do go to a 50-50, like we said a few minutes ago, then that will affect Crawford. That will affect. Let's see what that looks like.
Yeah, I think I'd like to
finish one thing.
Yep, I agree.
I agree.
How are you guys?
Do that.
Let me ask you a question. How are you dealing with your capacity issues now? Because you're at bursting point now. You're just under capacity. How are you dealing with that? Are you doing portables? Are you sending kids home? We're doing relocating, right? So, once again, I'm going to go back to what I said before, is I think there's no good solution here. 1 or 2 or 3 schools are going to be over capacity. Why don't we look at, I like the idea of looking in the area where we think the growth's going to be, but we don't have that definite yet. I like the idea of thinking, why don't we pick a school that has the room that it won't kill to load up a little bit. We know it's going to be a temporary situation, but somebody's got to do that.
Japanese school now.
At 8:33, though, it is.
Hayes now.
Mm-hmm. My kid is in the portable Hayes now.
And there's 2,700 potential housing units going in the Hayes Crawford district right now. So it's logical to expect that's where the growth's going to be.
be. That's where there's 27 available places to build. That's probably where they're going to build them. So those are the areas where we're going to have to be. So where would they logically think to put a new middle school, where they just build all the houses, you would think? So I'd be playing there.
Well, but we don't know.
Right. So we're backing out 400 Lexington traditional. Crawford, how can we relieve some of that for Crawford? That's the next step.
We have a board meeting downstairs.
Yeah, I know. Not yet. I'm watching the clock.
5 minutes?
Are Lisa and Bob trying to leave early?
No weenie.
No, I'm here.
We got to finish the LPMS.
Yeah, let's do that, Scott. And did we decide 350 or 733?
And you're saying it's 50-50?
I said that. It's currently at about 400. I recommended that we use that number.
400 magnet and that means 350.
Yeah, let's do that. Let's do 400. Right. Let's add Scott.
I got it.
Okay. Let's see what that does do. And what we got to look at is what is it going to do, particularly to Crawford and Lee's County. Okay.
Okay. So we want to try to get that then. Try to get that area down to 400.
Right.
Scott has a question also. Right now we have, Scott, portables, a lot of portables at Beaumont and Hayes. That's how we're accommodating more than the capacity that is shown in these figures.
Okay. Do they have room for more?
What we're looking at is you're basing it on 833 and it's 1,076, so you've already lowered it by 200. So it's going to be not based on the data, this is based on area. Hayes at the moment has 1,076.
Wait, Sandra. Let's finish this LTMS.
Let's do that. All right. Well, so we have this yellowish area is LTMS right now. We want to get it down to 400. It makes sense to go around the edges first. Let's see. All right, these are the red lines of the current middle school lines. So I'm going to take some of these and leave them where they're at, basically. So these are going to go back to Crawford. Okay. Uh-oh. I have a little glitch here. I apologize. Let me see what I can do. I came up with an error. Oh, I know what the problem was, I think. Okay. Error solved. Okay, so that brought Crawford down to 682. I'm sorry, Crawford up to 933. And I got to get these two other ones and that one down there. So these were Crawford. We're keeping them in Crawford. And we're at 652 for LTMS. So I'll bring these area back to Morton. Okay, so now we're at 590. Now, you see, should we continue on in this area or move over to here or up to here? Because we need to shrink it. Do we want to shrink it in one direction?
No.
So like bring,
That's portable.
And they have,
For at least temporarily. Oh, that's portable.
See if we can spread out the extra LTMS.
Yeah, I think so too.
see if we can do what? I'm sorry.
Well, spread the shrinking so we can adjust other schools as well.
Gotcha. Well, this area is the furthest from there, so I would say we bring that back. Yeah, bring that back to Beaumont. Okay. We still need about 100 students. We could bring this, it's just, this is going to be, I think, more aesthetic than anything. Oh, no, there was a good amount of students there. Now, from your perspective, does it make more sense to use this area or this area back to their original? We're at 466 right now.
Would that be putting them back in Winburn?
Yeah, this would be in Winburn
No, that goes back to Leestown.
or Leestown. That goes to Leestown. I'm sorry.
There's not going to be any kids.
There is that. So that is a natural boundary. We could bring that.
What about 117 just kind of sitting there by itself?
That.
Yeah.
Put it into what? That's Winburn. There was only a few kids there. Oh, yeah, I forgot I had that study area. The hashtags are less than 5 kids. Or the hash marks. Our study areas with less than 5 kids. So, I mean, really here, we've got a whole area that really doesn't have many kids. So we can almost assign this anywhere.
Scott,
Yeah.
414 to Bryan Station. Those kids don't have to cross Paris Pike to go to school.
Oh. 414 to Bryan Station, okay. There's 39 students there.
Thank you.
37, 10. There's a lot of students up in this area. Any ideas of what we can move?
180 in Winburn.
Which, 190?
180.
180.
Got it.
Which one? 137.
Which color is Leestown?
Probably.
Leestown's the gray.
If we have a lot of kids coming from Leestown, the magnet, do we want to try to move one of these?
Is that what you wanted?
Yeah.
Around the cemetery, those 50 kids or so, and they'll 33.
120?
30.
So the case room.
So they're not up.
Oh, okay.
In these 5 study areas, there's 22 students. Probably makes sense to go back to Morton to me. Is everybody okay with that?
Yeah.
Well, you know, Morton, we're getting a little bit of Morton capacity creep
Yeah,
here.
we can maybe move some of them.
Morton and Beaumont, and that's not where a new middle school is likely to be.
Yeah, it must have probably now they're back up to 116%. Which one are we talking about?
What about the area that's right around the cemetery, right around Zone 370? Can we move those to Leestown? There's a lot of people coming from Leestown who, you know, back and forth into the traditional. Clean the map up as well.
179, 370.
Yeah, that area
There's a
right there.
good amount of students in this area.
What is the area? The different colors on the map, so it's time for me to go back and forth.
Yeah, there's 108 students in these 5 study areas. So that's a big chunk to move,
Well, we're already down to 319, right? So we're just looking for what?
right?
What about 30 and 137?
But that brings
what's there? And 30 and 137? What is that?
So we don't need to move anymore.
And you would move this area to
You moved way down there.
Winburn?
Never mind, it went back when you took those off.
Yeah, but they're back again.
Great.
I don't want to put it to
Now you're
Morton.
at 131% at Morton.
Yeah, but we don't want to put those to Morton. Sorry. I want to put those to Winburn, correct?
Right.
In Leestown, where a lot of kids are coming
Yeah,
from. Yeah, a lot of
so we
folks
want those to go.
So Winburn brings it up, that 108 brings it just that amount up over capacity.
Right. What about at least,
Move those
put them
kids.
to Leestown?
We're already over everywhere.
Now, what we could do, what we've been discussing, is we're pretty sure that Crawford, Hayes are going to be the areas that are going to have that increase. Like I think Ron said, we can kind of relieve the other attendance areas by putting it into those 2 if we have the room there to be able to put more portables.
Well, at the beginning, we said that most of the students are coming into, on the magnet program, are coming from Leestown and coming from Crawford. So it makes sense to move them, the district in there, so it's a wash just on numbers. Basically.
Well, keep in mind, by reducing that capacity, that's going to
Right.
keep them from coming from those 2
Yeah,
areas.
'cause
Oh, yeah, they would count.
I think there won't be spots for them by a factor of 150 kids.
Yeah, 250 kids are coming from those 2 attendance areas. But if we include them in the attendance areas, they're in the first 400, not the magnet 400. So I think we should get the best we can for this area.
Well, Scott, you have Crawford at, I know you guys get tired of me saying this, but Crawford's at 115% and Hayes is at 104%. Hayes is used to handling 1,076, and Crawford, how many of you guys used to handling?
We currently have 530.
So
Can we try to move those 110 kids back? Would you kind of even it up from 115 and 104, kind of even those out?
Yeah, if that's what you guys want me to do, it's a committee call.
Yeah, let's do it and look at it, if you don't mind, Scott.
Not at all.
Let's see what we
Because these are students that have been moved. It doesn't necessarily have to be. You know, I'm big on trying to keep as many kids where they are now, currently, and not move any more than we have to.
So that brings Hayes to 121%.
Which is how many students? Okay, well, they have 1,076, so it's reducing their number some from where they are now.
Well, that's we're trying to reduce everybody who is well beyond capacity, and even at 140 less students, you're at the highest capacity in the county there at 120. I can't even read it. 122. Yeah.
And it doesn't necessarily have to do with what you're used to. Your staffing would change. If from at 800 students, we're not going to be staffed like we are for 530 students.
Mhm.
You know,
It seems to me that moving those back to Hayes did not balance the overcapacity. It took Crawford to undercapacity and Hayes to way over. And maybe not all of those areas should be shifted from one to the other.
Where do you say you should sum up?
How many kids are in 101?
I'll let you know in a second here.
We should live on the golf course.
32.
We probably need a grandfather with 32 kids.
Grandfather and Moyer Hayes?
No, what your main concern is, they're going there now. What I'm saying is, let them stay, regardless of what our math final is. So
We're drawing here.
That is very true. The
And we're
grandfather.
probably going to. Sorry.
It's okay. Is it Ron? You trying to talk?
Yeah, I just think we're drawing future maps here. We're gonna discuss grandfathering as Alan said, but we're looking at offers for the future here.
Yeah, exactly. The kids that are in these areas now are most likely going to stay with their schools. So we're not moving kids out of their schools. These are areas that are for future students. Especially in middle school.
Does it tell what grade those students are in right now, currently, those 32 students? Because if this map doesn't take effect for 2 years, it's a possibility that none of those kids or a very tiny amount of those kids will even be affected by the move.
Right. And we're looking at those numbers because we're assuming, and there's some reasons behind this, that there might be the same or a very similar number of students in each of these areas, but they're not going to be the same students. And so as we move it, we want to move it for that future population. We could look at, say, 4th through 6th grade now and see how many in that area. In fact, I'll do that really quick.
That's what
It would make me uncomfortable as a building administrator to uproot a kid in the middle of your middle school career. That's why I am pro-grandfathering, which is your big concern that you're sharing.
Well, you know, part of my concern is, as we discussed last time, and I know that we're trying to get under capacity, but, you know, part of it is, I expressed this last time, I don't know if I can express it again, but, you know, the principal at Hayes is comfortable with the number of kids we have now. You know, he doesn't want a whole lot of kids taken out. He's got a good system. Everything is smooth and everything goes well, and you know, and so that's part of it. And that's where I was looking at it. Is he's used to having. We're talking about putting these kids in someone that can handle it, and we know that Hayes can handle it. And then last time we did, I mean, we intentionally left more room in the new high school because we left the growth in that area, the Crawford and the new school. And so if either one of them was going to be a little over capacity, I said it made more sense for Hayes to be over capacity because Crawford is where the growth is going to be until the point where we get the new middle school. Because how many houses? I mean, we had a number last time, and there was.
I've got
What it was.
I've got this. 1,800 houses we built in the Crawford area, and probably about 200 a year is what we're building out there. So.
What about Hayes? Did anybody have the numbers?
Hayes is pretty much done.
So that's what I'm looking at, is the numbers between now and when the new middle school is built. And if you've got 1,600 houses going in one area and not any in the other area, then I think we need to leave room in Crawford to allow for growth. That's what we did with the high school, and I was just trying to match the high school to the middle school.
Mr. Chairman, if you're, let's talk about a new middle school. The only way you can locate a new middle school is land in that Chester Road around the new high school, vacant land there. And along the lines, I think the man on the phone said that if you overcrowded those two schools and a new one comes in, it takes away from Hayes and it'll take away from Crawford both and fill up the new middle school in 3 years. That'd be just right.
I mean, don't we think we need to allow for that growth between now and then?
And there will be a modest amount of growth in Denton Farm, so there's still some growth around Hayes right now. That can't be discounted. And there's other large tracts of land on the southeast part of Lexington that aren't even proposed for development yet, but they could accommodate any number of schools.
So if the new middle school is going to be built in 5 to 7 years, where do you think that we should leave room in which middle school for growth in the next 5 to 7 years until the new one's built?
I don't know that we can make that call because we've also been told that we may need to come back and look at middle school boundaries. We don't necessarily know that we can do that right now. We may have to come back and look at middle schools later on.
Yeah.
And what I was saying earlier was that why would you take one school and put it that far above capacity to leave room for growth in a school? We haven't drawn these lines yet. So right now you're saying that these houses, these 1,200 houses are going to be built in the Crawford area, but if we haven't put the lines out there yet, some of those houses will be built in a different area once those new lines are drawn.
Well, they're in the existing Crawford area.
The existing, but when we switch the boundaries, then there'll be
No, if you switch the boundaries, there's no more houses being built in that area. They're all in this existing line. If you lift this boundary between Crawford and Hayes as it exists right now, in other words, as a builder, you're out there putting up money and buying lots and this, that, and the other, and right now you know it's the Crawford area. You know that, so you still choose to go out there and build a house in that area knowing that. Okay, so why change all that if Crawford's under capacity anyway?
If Crawford is under capacity, but what you're saying is leave one school at 121.5% above capacity, so that you don't have to build houses somewhere else.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying they're going to build where the land is. But what I'm saying is, by the time these houses are built, and then by the time the new decide, maybe then it's full from Hayes.
And it would take the overcrowding away from Crawford.
That's right.
So if we even the schools out now, they both have potential to grow, then they both have potential for release 5 to 7 years from now. I mean, like, the logic that to me is hard for me. I mean, just like as professionals, a lot of us work in overcapacity. A lot of us are doing 5 to 7 different positions. We have a lot of work, and we're doing our jobs, and we're doing all this other work. And we're doing it well. But that doesn't mean if somebody came and relieved me of 3 of those positions that I wouldn't maybe even be able to work more efficiently. and more effectively. Like, so the logic to me that he's used to working at this overcapacity, so let's leave him overcapacity. That doesn't make any sense to me. You can do more and you can do better work with less children.
We've got schools.
Right, but the what we just changed had both schools pretty equal. And now we're putting one school above capacity.
There's a flip side of that, too. Going back, it's taking right now is operating about 65% capacity, and in 3 years they're going to be at 110% capacity. I mean, that's a pretty big adjustment as well. So, I mean, you've got to look at the other side of that argument as well.
But Crawford, before Hayes was there, it's only been under 1,000 since Hayes came. So it's not a huge adjustment. I mean, Crawford used to be over capacity.
I think something else we have to look at is, because I pulled up the 4-6 students, and if you see what I've highlighted on Crawford, and at 6-8 there's 824, but there's going to be at 4-6, these are the current 4-6 students in your school district, there's 958. And is Bob still in the room?
Yeah.
Bob,
yes.
Your mobility, is it above 1 or below 1? Do you know?
Well, people do tend to move out of that area.
Okay.
You know, out to 6th grade.
So maybe you'll lose maybe half of those that increase. So maybe you'll lose another 50 students. It's still 824 to 900. That's the number of students living there right now at 4-6. Where at Hayes, there's 972 right now, and that's got 942 in 4-6. So it looks like it's kind of spread out where Hayes is staying the same, maybe losing a little, and Crawford seems to be growing just from the current students out without looking at even the development coming in. And we could expand that out a little bit, and I will do that.
Scott?
Yeah.
With all this discussion of growth, won't you be able to give them much clearer information in about a month?
Once I get the development information and all that other information, yes, I will be able to.
Okay.
So
it'll be clear with that information in the future.
It will be. So in looking at future students, currently we're 342, 306, and 324, and these are the 255, 271, and 298. These are all under 300. These are all over 300. When we get back, look at the number of first graders currently there. That's the number of second graders currently there. They're all higher than these current numbers.
Right.
And these all seem to be a little bit lower. So, and Bob is 100% right. Once we do the projections, we're able to project out that 5 to 7 years and see where the growth is. And that's when we can tell you, okay, this is going to work, or it's going to be up from 942 students to 1,000 students because of the growth, because of the development.
So what you're saying is that if we were to set this right now, the 121% capacity of Hayes, the way your line's drawn right now, should be trending down the next 3 years as Crawford is trending up. So we want to leave it the way it is right now, with higher capacity it is now, lower capacity at Crawford.
The way it looks right now, yes, that is the general trend I see just from looking at these numbers.
So can we leave it like this for now and then come back and do that when we get the projections?
I am going to recommend to the committee your consideration of block as it is.
The one that I would like to get out of the future going on is it jumps to 130. That's a pretty significant jump. We haven't even talked about Windward, but
Yeah. Well, moving.
But maybe that's just a thought at this point.
Yeah, you know what? Let's lock this scenario right now. I mean, obviously this is not where we're going to end up, but let's lock this in anticipation of the middle schools is where we've got a real issue because we are over capacity now. There's nothing we can do except try to equalize our overcapacity based on what the growth is, and we don't have the growth information yet about 3 weeks from now. So what I'm going to suggest is that we've done all of this. We have an idea of what the to the population growth patterns, and when we come back to it, and let's take an initial look now at elementary school, just for the next 30 minutes to get our feet where we are.
Can I suggest something, Alan?
Anybody agree with that plan?
I agree.
That sounds good. Can I suggest one thing about the little block?
Okay. Are you good with that?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So let's put this in the same vault that we put whatever our last scenario for high schools was. Soon to be revisited. And let's at least take a look at our further pass at elementary schools.
Can we get a revised map next week?
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Scott. Yeah.
Yeah, we will.
Yeah. We get this to the committee as soon as you
Call it
can.
this Allen's home.
No. Let me look at it again.
Can I share
Allen
something?
countdown?
Yeah.
I don't know if you noticed the little disclaimer I put in the side here.
Yeah,
All right. I'll do it. All right. And
Can I ask Scott a question, please?
let me ask our friends in the audience to help us by telling your friends and neighbors that this is not the last deal by any means. Don't let somebody go around the neighborhood with a petition and say, look what they've done to us. Yes. I mean, they can get that. Not tonight.
Mr. Stein, if I may, before we move on, and I'm a proponent of moving on, I had a sidebar conversation with Doug a minute ago. I'd like to ask him, just so that, I don't know if we care, I don't know if this is a consideration for this council, but how much does the portable cost the district?
To move it or just to have it?
To put it in place and to rent it for the year.
Okay.
It costs somewhere in the neighborhood of, see, the problem is you have to be within so many feet of the building to meet code for restroom and ADA accessible. A lot of codes that are involved, but currently we're spending around $80,000 on us. And it's
What?
just one.
And then the question,
Double wide, yes, 2 classrooms. So one trailer, 2 classrooms, $8,000 times however many of them you want to put on that lot. You've got 3 times 6 classrooms times 3 times 8,000.
What's the rental?
It's around between 10 and 12,000 a month.
okay, so we should keep that in mind to use the portables that we have in place now instead of trying to put one where there's not any and remove them from where there are. We might want to keep that in mind.
So we get rid of them all.
In a perfect world, we want to reduce that number.
I would think,
Sure.
I would think that what we would want to do at some point is get to 0, because that comes out of your.
So selfishly speaking, my 2-year-old doesn't have to walk outside in
Right.
snow or rain or 34-degree weather to get to her classroom.
Listen, it's clearly an important principle for us to pursue in elimination, not just reduction of all portables. Obviously, that's not going to be possible when we have more kids. What it might say, we had more kids in schools.
But how much money can you save by getting rid of a school? So if you have 2 schools that are equal capacity, you can take 1 from each.
And he says he doesn't care having a number of thousand kids. He's right. Probably doesn't. But not all them kids are in his EJ. He's got kids in Japanese schools. We got 3 football fields behind the school to get him to almost 1,100 kids. I mean, I'm sure he don't know lines move, but I would prefer that his lines to be moved so I can get them 3 down the horribles out behind that field.
I hear you. I appreciate all these conversations. Let's move on.
Alan, this is Ron. Can I ask Scott one question? If we've kind of freeze-framed, for now the middle school talk, which is fine. We have these are based on students that live in the areas. We know there's programs where kids are moving from one program to another. Can not actually change those attendance numbers to project what the real populations of the school would be with the kids moving from one district to another. That seems it would be helpful.
Yeah, and I have the capability of doing that, and it's already on my list to have done before the next meeting.
That sounded like an affirmative response.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yes, I can definitely do that, and it will be done before the next meeting.
Okay.
I have to interrupt as little as possible here, so.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Ron. All right, folks. Scott, throw up another log on the fire.
Yeah, let's just open it up some more. This was my first go at. Now, this was, again, another computer-generated. I just told it, find the study area and put it to its closest school that isn't over capacity. Or no. This was just closest school, no capacity. I think I did closest school.
Let me ask the committee that question. Do we want to start with capacity?
Or do we want to look at feeder patterns?
Yeah, feeder patterns, neighborhood.
Neighborhood closest school.
Closest. What's the pleasure? I mean, we're going to do all of them, of course. But where do you want to start? I don't care. We have started with closest to capacity, but this is a new deal. What's the pleasure of the committee?
Neighborhood schools, over there, so it looks like.
Do we want to overlay it with current like we do now, or do we want to overlay it with current? And that way when we make changes one way or the other, we can try not to impact any more kids than we have to?
Well, our goal is to try to impact as few as we can, given the parameters that we have.
What the numbers look like
to work.
Right here, the stars, keyboard,
Well, not hearing anything else, I'm going to go with Ty's suggestion. So, Scott, if you don't mind, did you hear that?
No, I did not.
Ty?
What do the numbers look like with this map? This is the closest school, right?
Yeah. There's 3 maps that I've done. This is current. This is what you currently have, your attendance areas. And one question I do want to ask, and it's very important, do we want to avoid and remove the non-contiguous areas? Is that something we want to do?
Yeah.
So we have,
But move the areas so there's the non-contiguous.
Non-contiguous areas.
Contiguous.
Satellite.
Yeah, so they're
non-contiguous. Yeah.
Although some of them will be next to impossible like that.
Right.
All right. So this is your current elementary. This is the closest school, regardless of capacity, and that put up some high capacity numbers. And this was closest school to capacity, and these hashed areas are unassigned because they couldn't find a school with enough capacity to go to. So which one would you like to see the numbers for?
Closest school to capacity.
Closest security. Where did you see?
Unassigned, it says 2000. The one that's closest to capacity. Closest to capacity. one that's closest to capacity.
Oh, I got you. Unassigned. Oh, man.
Yeah.
That's 10%.
2,000 kids.
So these kids are unassigned, right here.
Start with that.
These are areas that are unassigned.
And there starts the closest school and trim.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, my gosh, that's 10%.
Yeah, but with that closest capacity, he's already done the first draft of trimming in effect. So,
And there's, that's 10%, but you got to look, you've got 36% only filled and 50's percentage. So 14% of the Russell Cave is filled. That means there's no students right near that study areas or that school, but we can expand those.
Where are the unassigned kids? Are they close to where the new elementary schools are going to be located? I mean,
you're already assigned.
I've assigned those new elementary schools. There's the proposed North Elementary and then the plan east of I-75 Elementary.
Donate the land.
So if we're looking at the closest, regardless of capacity, we see a bunch of them, like, say, Wellington, that's at 183%. So let's go back.
184% of well.
Unassigned, that was 57.
So we built a new school, and already it's 184%.
Yep. Wow.
Well, that's the students living around it, just that happen to be the closest. So, yeah.
So in other words, if we determine that our most important element is to get kids in the school that they're closest to, we're going to have most of our schools at 30 to 80% over capacity from day one.
And some schools with no students.
I think Wellington is way over, but close to Wellington is going to have, you've got capacity to Plains Mill, and you're not saying that you move there, but there's schools around it that, you can work with.
Yeah, like Ashland's at 62%. So we could go to the schools that are next to Ashland and get more in there, which would reduce those schools. So we can go up from it that way. If this is what you want to look at, we want to look at the closest study areas. Maybe we do look at it that way. We just go one by one and try to reduce down what they have. It's going to be a domino effect because we've got to just adjust these study areas as we're moving one to one.
Again, have we adjusted these capacities for programs that in them? Ashland has an accelerated cluster program in it, so there's a lot of kids from out of the area.
I wouldn't give it any new attendance or new capacity, so I can do that too if somebody gives it to me.
We have not made any progress for that. And actually, Scott, I'm trying to see, you didn't draw a zone for Maxwell, correct?
No.
Okay, because Maxwell is an all-magnet program, so they would not have a neighborhood zone. Just a reminder for the committee, if you would like to reduce some capacities at the elementary level, like you did at the middle school level, we can. Remember, there is a third new elementary school in our future.
Right.
So that is one of the reasons that, we're seeing things that are full. We know that we are already needing another elementary school. And some of the numbers that we're going to, if we could have identified the land, we would be building it right now. That's our biggest problem, is getting someone who is willing to sell us land at a market value. We do know that the new elementary school that's, Huron from Deer Haven is one that's right across the street from a new subdivision that's going in with approximately 350 homes there.
That's the proposed north?
Yes.
No, it's east.
Oh,
Is that what we're,
It's the east one.
yes, the east of 75 one. And there's also, and this will be some of the stuff that Scott will have to share with us in the next month or so. There's also, you were saying something, your folks were talking about the possibility of growth in near the one off Georgetown Road, and that there's possible rezoning there that would allow for more multifamily development. So that will also impact the capacity of the growth in that school zone as well.
Is 61 where you adjust the capacity as well for their program? Or
60 is a magnet school that has always worked based on whether there was space. They've never really reserved space at Dixie. It's always been neighborhood kids first, and then if there's any room left, they accept students off of the application list. With the accelerated clusters, we have 3 gifted and talented accelerated clusters in Fayette County at the elementary level. One of them is at Ashland Elementary, one of them is at Hayes Creek Elementary, and one of them is at Meadowthorpe Elementary. And again, those are driven by student need. So kids are identified as gifted and talented in those 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade, and those and the program is offered to them. We won't turn people away if they qualify. We do have to serve everyone at that high level.
What happens, though, if those clusters, if you're not turning anybody away, build the capacity of the school, what happens to those kids in the neighborhoods who we have put into a boundary? What do we do with them?
At the elementary level, for the accelerated clusters, it never approaches that. The smallest of those schools with accelerated clusters is Ashland, has a capacity of over 400, and it might typically have about 100 kids in the accelerated cluster. You know, maybe a little bit more, never more than 135. And that's, in part, that's because we have 3 schools with the programs.
We worked this issue much more when we only had Ashland and Meadowthorpe, and that was the primary reason for opening Hayes Creek, was to ensure that we could fit all the kids in and not have to push out neighborhood students.
Okay. So for the foreseeable future, while that doesn't sound like a very good answer, Bob, it is the right answer, right? Yeah, okay.
And again, people are a lot less willing to put their 4th graders on a bus. You know, they tend to want to keep them closer to home. And the other wonderful thing about Fayette County is that we have very excellent gifted and talented services in all of our elementary schools. So you don't have to put kids in an accelerated cluster that's receiving gifted and talented services.
Okay. I'm convinced. Okay, folks, we got about 15 minutes. What direction you want to go? You got any thoughts? Yeah.
Let's tackle Wellington.
Can I make a comment?
Please do.
If you look at the new school on the to the east, you see how there's 2 separate parts. And
what map are you looking at?
okay, are we working on the closest school to capacity? Is that what we're working from? I'm looking. Oh, wait,
No,
Is that a map from last week that you're looking at?
Yeah. Close to the capacity, I know that's what we were using. This is what we're using.
Yeah. I would suggest, I think it's better to go to the closest school because that seems to be the most important.
Okay, it's the same.
It is the
But if
same.
you look right, see right here, if we have schools that's under capacity up here, and this is going over the new school, and this is the hot zone over here, should we look at this?
Well, I'm wondering if that's not a hash marked area out
Well,
there.
there's nothing
Well,
there.
no, because they're looking at this area, see right here, and they're pulling them over to here.
Well, which schools are you talking about? Yeah.
Well, I was looking over here, and because if you look at like Deep Springs and Yates, they're under capacity. Some of these schools are under capacity.
Right.
This area needs to maybe come to some of these schools, because we know that we've got a big gray area right here. This is a full part, so that would allow room for these to go in this area if this is over here. Does that make sense?
What area is this?
Well,
Briar Hill
Yeah.
Road, rural area, about 5 people.
Oh, is that all there is? Okay.
But
yeah, that's what I thought it was half.
Okay.
Yeah.
Doug.
There's 11 kids on this map. If you look at the Wellington Stonewall Place Mill area, can we figure out a way to draw that line so we can get alleviate some of the crowd in Wellington?
That's the suggestion. That's the area I suggest we start with. Let's get down in here. There's what your capacities are real out of whack.
Well, if that's the case, we're looking at Wellington, Sandersville,
Wires.
Liberty, Cardinal Valley, Breckenridge, Booker T, and Ace. Those are the hot spots based on the criteria you just asked. But starting at Wellington, I suppose, makes the most sense.
So who has some capacity to work with? Clay Mills can take some. Garden Springs can take some.
Glendover can take some.
Oh, yeah, too, just keeping in the back of our mind that Wellington was the last rezoning of schools, so
Right.
the least amount of blow you can maybe take it.
Can we
Might
put
be right.
the current district over this just so we can see and purposefully move kids back and forth?
Yeah, that's good.
That's a good idea.
What were you asking?
So can you put the numbers back in? And thank you.
Which numbers? I'm sorry.
Can you put the study area numbers?
Oh, yeah,
on
yeah,
as well?
yeah. I'm sorry.
Thank you.
So I think first
You take
move is these guys back to Clay Mills. Simple, easy, goes back to where they were.
242, yeah. That. 84. So 84 goes to Piccadilly.
Really?
Is that right? That doesn't look right. I mean, no.
You mean it's not connected?
yeah.
No, we're looking at 8.
So
But you know what? I don't know where you're going to put that because Stonewall's one of our target spots too.
well, we can keep going south with Clay Mills a little bit. It's going to get right across the road from there.
Can you put 292 and 297 in as well?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Or, oh, I'm sorry, that's
Yeah.
one over on the screen.
Can you keep it on this thing?
Excuse me.
Well, you know, for that matter.
Yeah, try to keep it around that whole area.
But let's see what southern. Yeah, well, that's going to take southern under capacity. I'm going to guess.
292.
Pictures inside new circles that are Lansdowne and move them to Glendover, and then shift folks from Southern down to Lansdowne and shift folks over from Wellington into Southern.
Yeah, into Clay Mills. Ken,
Okay, so what was that suggestion?
Just the areas 292, 297, 64, and 344, which are south of New Circle Road, and move them into Glendover, which would, Lansdowne's already under, but we can shift stuff from Southern then into Lansdowne.
And they're currently going to Lansdowne or taking them to...
You're saying the kids are really close to Lansdowne. Or
Should go to Windows or Lansdowne?
yeah, that 64.
It'd be hard to get some of these kids into Lansdowne from Southern, but we could maybe take a few over here.
Well, yeah.
No, it's still hard because Southern, they're pretty close together.
Well, currently Southern and Lansdowne have non-contiguous areas of students. Yeah.
So, like 20, 40, 30. 71%. What about
Southern's
yeah. Do it right now.
currently, and Lansdowne is way below, yeah.
Nice. What did that do for Lansdowne?
I know it's right there.
And that's back to where it was on this border.
Yeah. No, that's different.
What are we traveling right now? No, but these are putting each other and you take them out of better care. Our clothing are up to now kind of low. Like right here. For example. Oh, you don't call it.
So 64 and 344, where you're talking about that being on the other side of New Circle, isn't that an overpass New Circle? That's not a crossing New Circle. So we can leave, it's not about crossing New Circle then.
They're already
districted to Lansdowne, so it would make sense to leave them there.
Closer to the house.
Yes.
They can walk. Yeah.
Correct.
well, they can walk.
Yeah.
Yes, so
That's
can
why-
we do 64 and 344 back to Lansdowne, please?
Yeah, that's right. That goes under the highway there. So.
That's okay.
I don't like it.
Oh, well.
Too bad, right?
Tell them they can walk.
They can walk there. They're not crossing a major road. The road
Okay.
is over them and they're walking under it. So they're okay.
Okay, so Lansdowne still has room. Glendover has room.
What is that area next to 350? It's a little tiny area. That's right there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Could that go to Lansdowne?
It's got 15 students in it. Yeah, I could. In this area right here, it's got 7 students in it. I don't know
You
why.
can walk. Southern. Other kids can walk to Southern.
Yeah.
They can literally walk up the hill to Southern right there.
Right.
Well, how about over here on the left side of a Southern that was in Lansdowne? If we move them back to Lansdowne like they were, it'll give us room to move some out from Veterans Park over.
So you're talking about these? Okay.
Put them back where they were. Yeah, because there's room in Lansdowne. That would give room in Southern because you've got Veterans Park at 137. And you're going to have to move them up. You've moved people
right here.
Well, again, these with the hash marks have no students in it.
Yeah, but see, like right here, this was in before, right?
That has 22.
Liz is way up there, so they don't have any students back here. But they never did.
Zero.
They can walk to
Yeah, they-
from 68. They can't walk to Lansdowne from 68.
68's the only one that has students in it.
You're right. I would leave it and let them walk without crossing Mason Road.
We've had minimal impact with what we've done here on Wellington.
Yeah.
Trying to stay focused here. We've gone from 182 to 178, or whatever it was, 184.
Did we move over?
We move over to the left.
Yeah.
Please.
Mm-hmm.
I wish we didn't have to make color colors. I mean, I can show you this, but you can't like with that.
I won't be able to. If the colors are matched,
Any suggestions?
What district is that at the bottom there? 35. Where are they going now?
I'm sorry, I didn't get which study areas.
78.
What line is the current line there for Wellington? So what is like 84, 78, 435, 430? Where are they going now? Where's that? What zone is that?
84 is for Picadell, I think.
So that small little square?
Everything from the long part is Picadell, and then Clay's Mill is on the other side of Clay's Mill Road.
Yeah, this area that's flashing is Picadome. That's Clays Mill. Two non-contiguous areas. Wellington's is right now just this.
That's a mess of getting cleaned up.
Yeah.
We should have built a bigger school.
What do we do if we move 537, 535, 583, and 581 to Clays Mill?
I bet anyone doesn't have anybody.
Yeah. And 583. So this whole, just north of Wellington?
Yes.
Yes.
Getting real close to the school here, but
Well, it's because that's where people live, there, where the schools are built. But
so that brings
583
583 also.
out of Wellington, yes.
No impact. You know, those kids are a block away.
Right.
Well,
We haven't done anything with capacity.
It's,
Now, just looking at pictures, but
It brought
it
down,
almost looks like we're stuck with the non-contiguous areas, given where the schools are and the population is. I don't-
Right next door to
yeah.
Scott, I would like to say that you, in my humble opinion, have put us at a good starting spot.
Good.
Your map looks very clean,
Yep.
with all due respect with what we currently have.
Well, then I'm done here.
But comment it was that we're somewhat stuck in that part of the county, but indeed and in fact, we are. I mean, we're proposing perhaps one or two study areas that are literally walking distance to Wellington. That makes no sense. I mean, you know, in any scenario, we can't do that.
Right.
Now,
Right.
how about if we go backwards? So right now we're looking at schools that are packed and trying to alleviate that. Why don't we look at some of the schools that are low and work backwards and see if we can't look
Well,
at some from different angles.
I'm good with that idea, but I note that the witching hour has come along, and some people have to eat. I have to have scotch.
I thought you didn't drink.
Yeah, that's a lot.
He didn't before this committee started.
Yeah, I didn't drink until this. But I like Lester's thought. Why don't we leave this as is? And this is where we'll start on the 18th. Am I good with that? Yep. Thank you all for your commitment.
These two maps that we were to say email to us like tomorrow before we look at it.
Which two maps is that?
Did you hear that?
No, exactly. Email what?
Maps we just left to us so we can look at them next week.
There's too much noise. I can't really get what you're saying. So just have Lisa email me.
It goes with the capacity, just like what they have to be But
Your point is correct, but I don't know how you get around
I mean, wherever the line is on, it doesn't have to be built in the population. There's no logic.
I look forward to actually meeting with you in person in a couple weeks.